A cone is a solid figure that is very much just like a pyramid. The only difference is that a cone is a solid figure with a circle for a base rather than a polygon, and it has a smooth lateral surface. It doesn't have triangles like you would find on a pyramid. It still has a vertex like a pyramid, and it still has an altitude or a height like a pyramid going from the vertex perpendicular down to the base. So in those regards, it's very similar to a pyramid. With a circle, we have a radius, which is going to be the distance from the center of the base to a point on the edge of the circle. And with cones, we have what are called right cones, where the vertex is directly above the center of the base or the center of the circle. And we have oblique cones, where they're slanted. And believe it or not, finding the volume of either a right cone or an oblique cone is exactly the same. But the cones we're going to look at are all going to be right cones. And to find the volume of a cone is exactly the same process as finding the volume of a pyramid. It's 1/3 capital B for area of the base times H for height of the cone. So again, capital B is the area of your base, which in this case is going to be a circle, and H is that height or altitude of the cone. Now we have more measurements than we need in this particular cone. We have the radius 7 that we will need to find the area of our base. This 9 is the altitude that we will use, because it is that perpendicular distance from the vertex to our base. The 11.4 is the slant height. Just like pyramids have slant height, cones also have slant height. And slant height gets used when we're finding surface area. It's not used when we're finding volume. And that's that distance along the slant of the lateral surface. So let's find the area of our base. Again, the area of our base is a circle. That formula is pi r squared. We will use the approximation 3.14, and our radius is 7 squared, and that will be 3.14 times 49, which is equal to 153.86 square inches, because we were finding area of the base. Our units are squared, not cubed. The height of our cone, we mentioned earlier, is 9 inches. So to find the volume of this particular cone, we're going to take 1/3 times the area of the base, the 153.86, times the height or the altitude of our cone, 9. I'm going to multiply the area of the base times that altitude, and we're going to have 1,384.74. And when you find 1/3 of any number, it's like dividing it by 3. So if you're not comfortable using fractions, you can take 1,384.74 and divide it by 3. And we're going to have 461.58 cubic inches. Again, volume is always cubic units. And because our dimensions here were listed as inches, our units for volume in this case is going to be inches cubed or cubic inches. Let's take a look at 2 more. Let's find the area of the base, pi r squared, So we have 3.14 as our approximation for pi. Our radius is 4, so 4 squared. 4 squared is 16. For a base area of 50.24 inches squared. The height or the altitude of this cone is 12 inches. So to find the volume of this cone, we use the formula 1/3 area of the base times the height. So that's 1/3 times 50.24 times 12. And again, I'm going to take the area of the base times that altitude or height. And that is 602.88. And when I multiply that by 1/3 or divide by 3, I have a volume of 200.96 cubic inches. Again, volume is cubic measurements for volume. On the second one, the 14 meters we see across the bottom is actually the diameter of our base. So we need to find the radius. Remember, radius is just half the diameter, so that's going to be 7 meters. So to find the area of our base, pi r squared let me clear this up a little. Pi r squared, in this case, is 3.14 times 7 squared, and this is a value that we found on our first example, so I'm just going to go ahead and write that the area of this base is going to be 153.86 meters squared this time. In our first example, it was inches squared. The height of this cone is 14 meters. So our volume is going to be 1/3 of the area of the base times the altitude or height of the cone. And when I multiply the area of the base times that altitude, I have a value of 2,154.04. And when I divide that by 3 or multiply by 1/3, I will have to round this because it doesn't divide evenly. And we end up with 718.01 cubic meters. So keep in mind, whenever you're finding volume, your unit should be cubed. When you're finding area, your units are squared. And also pay attention that if you're given diameter, you need to change that to half the length to have your radius to find the area of your base.